The sky above Aurelian 3 shimmered with strange colors: blue, purple, and gold clouds twisting together like silk in water. It was not Earth. It wasn't even close. This was neutral ground. It's a place where dozens of alien species came together, without war, without fear. It was the home of the First Contact games, peaceful but serious test for new spacefaring species. The games weren't about war or power. They were about proving culture, intelligence, teamwork, and the ability to think beyond one's own world. And now, for the first time, humans had been invited. The human ship landed with quiet pride. It was not the biggest or most beautiful ship in the skies of Aurelian 3, but it was real. It's built by a young species that had just stepped into the galaxy. The humans didn't know it yet, but this event would change everything. Among the team, stepping off the ramp was Private Eli Mercer, the youngest soldier in the group. He was only 18, barely out of training. He was not the strongest, the smartest, or the most important. In fact, he was only there because a senior soldier had gotten sick just before launch. Eli's boots sank slightly into the soft silver grass as he looked around. Giant stone towers floated in the sky, connected by glowing bridges. Alien ships hovered quietly overhead. Creatures of every shape and size walked past, some with wings, some with fur, some with forearms, some with none at all. And then came the moment everyone noticed. A royal procession floated above the field, golden orbs carrying cloaked figures. At the center was Princess Virelia of the Zarinth Dominion, ruler of one of the oldest and most advanced empires in the galaxy. She had silver blue skin that shimmered like ice and eyes like stars, ancient and sharp. Her robe moved like it was. Underwater, she was beautiful, yes, but more than that, she was powerful. Her words could change laws. Her moods could shift alliances. And when her eyes passed over the humans, something unexpected happened. She paused. Her gaze locked on Private Eli Mercer, the boy standing awkwardly at the back of the group. One strap of his gear bag slipping off his shoulder, helmet slightly crooked. Everyone noticed her pause. She turned to one of her advisors and whispered something. The advisor blinked in surprise but nodded. The opening ceremony continued, but the moment had already shifted the air. Something strange had happened, and no one yet knew how important it would be. The next morning, the games began. Each species would take part in a series of challenges. Some were physical, others mental, some were creative. The purpose was to test what a civilization valued, how they worked together, and what made them unique. For humanity, it was a chance to prove that Earth deserved a place in the interstellar community. The human team was small, but prepared. Scientists, a few diplomats, and the security team. The older soldiers took charge of protection and planning. Eli was told to stay in the background. "Don't do anything stupid," said Sergeant Lyra, adjusting her gear. "We're here to keep the eggheads safe. That's it." "Yes, ma'am," Eli said. He didn't mind. He wasn't here to be a hero. The first trial was a logic challenge. A massive, shifting cube structure hovered above the ground. Each team had to enter, solve the puzzle rooms inside, and find their way out. Time mattered, but so did creativity. As teams entered, screams of frustration and flashes of light filled the air. Many species had trouble. The puzzles weren't just hard, they were tricky. When the humans entered, Eli was assigned to walk rear guard. But as the team got stuck in a logic room facing glowing symbols and strange levers, he noticed something. "Numbers don't add up," said one of the scientists, frowning. "This pattern makes no sense." Eli raised his hand slightly. What if it's not meant to make sense?" Everyone turned. Eli said, scratching his head. "What? If the test isn't about solving the puzzle the normal way, what if it's about realizing the puzzle is flawed?" The team blinked. The scientist tested his theory and the wall opened. They passed the first room, then the second, and the third. Each time, Eli saw something no one else did not, because he was brilliant, but because he asked simple questions no one else bothered to ask. At the end of the trial, the cube lowered and the human team emerged earlier than expected. Aliens whispered. A judge, a floating AI with 1,000 blinking eyes, said, "Interesting. Very human." Later that day came the culture showcase. Each species would display something that showed who they were: art, music, philosophy, anything. The humans chose a mix of music, food, and digital paintings. It was decent, but nothing special. But at the end, when no one was paying much attention, Eli stepped up quietly, took out a small harmonica from his pocket, and began to play. It was a slow, sad Song-An Old Earth folk tune his grandfather had taught him. Soft, simple, and full of feeling. A song that spoke of long roads, quiet hopes, and homes far away at first. No one listened. Then silence fell. Even the Zarenth guards turned their heads. Eli finished the song, looked up and realized the crowd was staring, not clapping, just feeling something. Virelia stood, looking directly at him. No words. But something in her expression had changed. That evening, the human team gathered for dinner in their small camp. Eli was quiet, eating protein bars and trying to stay out of trouble. But then a message came. A glowing orb floated into the tent and announced in a clear, echoing voice, "Princess Virelia of the Zarenth Dominion requests a personal audience with Private Eli Mercer." The team froze. Sergeant Lyra dropped her fork. "Why you?" one of the diplomats asked. I don't know," Eli said, nearly choking on his bar. They cleaned him up, adjusted his uniform, and sent him out like a lamb to a lion. The royal chamber was like a dream. Floating crystal platforms, plants that glowed, soft music played from nowhere. Virelia stood tall, hands behind her back, staring out at the stars through a transparent wall. "You are different," she said, without turning. "I'm sorry," Eli asked, unsure what to say. "You are not your leaders, not a warrior, not a genius. Yet you see things others miss. You feel deeply. You speak simply, but not stupidly." Eli blinked. Thank you." Virelia turned, looking him over as if studying a new kind of life form. "You are human, and I have decided something." She raised one elegant hand and pointed directly at him. "That human will be mine." Eli's jaw nearly hit the floor. "Wait, what?" Eli Mercer did not sleep much that night. After returning from the royal chamber, he sat on his bunk with wide eyes and a confused heart. His teammates whispered across the room. Some looked at him with surprise, others with jealousy, a few with concern. "Is this a joke?" someone muttered. "Did he mess something up? Or maybe he charmed her by accident." Eli wasn't sure either. He had met Princess Virelia for only a few minutes. She had spoken strange things. She had pointed at him like she was claiming a rare animal at a market. Now the entire human delegation was talking about it. Even the aliens were talking about it. Sergeant Lyra entered the room, her boots hitting the floor hard. "You're causing too much noise, Private," she said. "I didn't do anything," Eli replied. "Exactly." And somehow that made her pick. "You," she sighed, rubbing her forehead. "You're not in trouble yet, but you need to keep your head down now." "We don't know what this means." "What does it mean?" Eli asked. Lyra stared at him for a moment. Then, with a softer tone, she said, "It means you're under a spotlight now. A big, royal, galactic spotlight. Don't trip." The next morning, the second round of the First Contact Games began. This challenge was called the Cross-Trial Mesa, a combination of logic, strength, balance, and teamwork. It was built inside a floating platform above Aurelian 3. Moving walls, shifting floors, gravity zones. Each team had to reach the end without losing a single member before the trial began. All teams lined up on the platform. The crowd, composed of dozens of alien species, watched from above. And then came the Zarenth delegation. Princess Virelia entered, floating on a glowing platform. She was dressed in dark violet robes that sparkled like stars. She stood tall, regal, expression unreadable. But when her gaze met Eli's, she smiled. A small, knowing smile. Eli looked away quickly. Some aliens in the crowd began whispering. Others chuckled. One small reptilian alien near the front shouted, "The princess chose a child." The platform lights flared. The trial began. The maze was not easy. Each section was a trap. One area had magnetic zones pulling gear out of place. Another twisted time, slowing movement. There was one part where the walls whispered in your ears saying things that weren't true. The human team struggled at first. Their tech wasn't advanced like others. The Zorinth glided through with ease. A race of insectoids scaled walls like spiders. A jellyfish-like species floated through energy zones. The humans had no special powers. But they had something else. Adaptability. Eli noticed it first. A floor tile that blinked in a pattern. It wasn't random, he shouted to the group. Wait. Step only on the tiles that blink twice. They listened and it worked. Later, in a spinning corridor, one soldier dropped his gear. The gravity twisted, and he started sliding into an energy pit. Eli threw his own safety line and caught him. Just in time. He nearly fell himself, but held tight. No one told him to do that. They made it to the final section with all members intact, barely. Bruised, tired, covered in sweat, but standing. The judges watched. A tall alien with a crystal head leaned forward. Humans, he said. Surprisingly clever. When the results were announced, the humans came in 5th out of 32. It's not first but well above average for a new species. It was a quiet victory, but it meant a lot. Later, as teams rested and cleaned up, Eli sat by himself near the edge of the floating garden, stared out at the stars. A soft humming sound filled the air. He turned and found Princess Virelia floating toward him. This time, she was alone. No guards, no lights. Eli stood quickly. Your Highness? She raised a hand. No titles, just talk. He sat down slowly. She floated beside him, her robes shifting gently. You are interesting, she said. You do not think like others. I think a lot of people say that when they mean someone is. Weird, Eli said. She gave a small laugh. Maybe, but I mean it as a compliment. They were quiet for a moment. Then she asked, Why did you save that man in the maze? I had to, Eli replied. He's part of my team. But no. One would have blamed you if he fell. It was his own mistake, Eli shrugged. That doesn't matter. We don't leave people behind. Virelia nodded slowly. That is a very human answer. She looked at him carefully. Do you know why I chose you? No, Eli said honestly. Because you are untamed. Most species become cold after joining the stars. Logical, controlled. But humans or kind still burn with something. Wild. You speak with feeling. You ask questions without fear. It is refreshing. Eli didn't know what to say to that. She leaned closer. In the Zorinth culture, we do not marry for love. We choose for strength, political gain, strategy. But I want something different. Something real. Eli blinked. You think I'm real? Yes, she said. You're not pretending. Everyone here wears masks, but you don't even own one. Eli looked down at his boots. I'm not a hero. I'm just a soldier who almost didn't make it on this trip. Yet here you are. She floated up again. There is one more challenge before the final event. After that, choices will be made. My claim will stand unless I lose. Lose what? The right to choose freely? Before Eli could ask more, she turned and floated away. He sat in silence for a long time, staring at the spot where she had been. The next day, the third trial began. This one tested interspecies cooperation. Teams had to pair up with another species and solve challenges together. The humans were paired with a nervous group of squid-like aliens who communicated through light pulses. Most species struggled to communicate with them. Eli D in single quotes. He watched their colors, listened to their rhythm. He didn't understand all of it, but he responded in his own way by using lights on his gear to flash back patterns. It worked. The squid creatures lit up excitedly. They began working together, weaving glowing nets and solving puzzles. By the end of the trial, the human squid pair had built a bridge no one else could manage. Even the judges clapped a rare show of approval. Eli had done something no translator could. He connected that night. The human camp received an unexpected message. The Zarenth High Council has declared that if Princess Virelia cannot win the games, she will lose her royal rights to claim any outsider. In other words, if she wanted to keep her claim on Eli, she had to win. It was more than political now. It was personal, and the pressure was rising. In the dark corner of the camp, Eli sat beside a small portable heater. He played his harmonica against low, soft notes drifting into the night. He didn't know what would happen next, but deep inside, something was changing. He had come as a nobody. Now, he was something more. Maybe not a hero, maybe not a prince, but definitely human. To be continued. Aurelian 3 never slept. Floating lights moved in the skies like dancing stars. Alien ships hummed quietly above, and strange flowers glowed in the gardens even at night. But Eli Mercer couldn't enjoy the view. The message was clear. If Princess Virelia didn't win the games, she would lose the right to choose him. Her own council had declared it. Some saw it as a political move, others saw it as punishment. But Eli knew one thing. It had made everything much more serious. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was now the reason a royal challenge had turned into a war of rules in the human camp. Voices were raised. The diplomats argued about whether Eli should be pulled from the games. The scientists debated the meaning of Zarenth law. The generals wanted tighter security, but Eli sat quietly by the tent, staring at his hands. He hadn't asked for any of this. He just wanted to see space, to represent Earth, maybe to learn something, not to be claimed, not to be wanted by an alien princess, and not to be at the center of galactic politics. The final trial before the closing ceremony was announced the next morning. The Unity trial. Each team had to send one person to join a temporary mixed species group. That group would face a high-stakes mission simulation, a crisis on a fake space station with system failures, life support danger, and hostile surprises. The point? To prove leadership, teamwork, and problem-solving across language and culture. Barriers. Each team had to choose wisely. The human leaders gathered. They talked about sending an officer or a trained engineer, but someone else spoke first. "I'll go," said Eli. They stared at him. "You?" Sergeant Lear asked, raising an eyebrow. "You're a rookie. I've worked with the squid team. I've figured out puzzles. I've kept calm. Isn't that what this trial is about?" A pause, then a quiet nod from the head diplomat. "Let him go," she said. "He's already at the center of this. Let's see how far he can go." Eli was placed in a team of 6. None of them spoke the same native language. None of them even had the same number of limbs. A floating crystal being that spoke through sound waves. A small, furry creature with 4 hands and no eyes. A long-necked, lizard-like alien who always hissed when nervous. A robotic cube that beeped in patterns. And a flying, feathered alien. With bright orange wings and Eli, they were dropped into the simulation room together. It looked like a failing space station. Red lights blinking, systems going offline, alarms screaming. Begin. At first, everything was chaos. Nobody could understand each other. The feathered alien screeched and flew into a vent. The furry one tried to bite a console. The robot beeped randomly. The crystal being just stood still. Humming, Eli took a deep breath. Okay. One step at a time. He pointed at the oxygen monitor, showing levels dropping. He waved his hand in a stop signal and slowly acted out what needed to be done, pulling wires. Rerouting power. The cube stopped beeping and joined him, using its tools to fix the wiring. The furry creature sat and watched, then copied Eli's calm breathing. The others slowly joined in. Eli didn't give orders. He showed trust. He smiled. He nodded. He helped each one understand through actions, not words. Together, they moved through the simulation, repairing systems, saving imaginary lives, and avoiding a hostile intruder robot that tried to knock them out. By the time the simulation ended, their group was the only one to complete all objectives with 0 failures. The judges looked shocked. Humans. One of them muttered, "Are too unpredictable." After the Unity trial, Eli was brought back to the camp. Like a quiet hero, he didn't cheer. He didn't brag, but deep inside, he felt something new. Confidence. That evening, a message came. Princess Varelia requested one final meeting. Eli was escorted to the Crystal Tower where her personal chambers floated above the gardens. This time, the guards bowed as he entered. The chamber was quiet. Varelia stood near a pool of glowing water, her face softer than before. "You did well," she said. "You watched," Eli asked. "I always watch." He smiled a little. "You might be the first royal stalker in history," she laughed. "Been called worse." There was silence between them. Then she said, "My council fears I am too free, too curious. They want me to follow tradition, to marry a prince of the Thalkar Alliance. Do you want that?" "No." She looked away. "I want someone real. Someone who sees the stars, not as trophies, but as mysteries." Eli swallowed. "You're risking a lot for me." "I am. But not because I'm desperate, because I'm done pretending. And you remind me of what we all once were: brave, unsure, full of hope." Eli looked into her silver eyes. He felt nervous, overwhelmed, but not afraid. She stepped forward, close, enough to touch. "Tomorrow is the final ceremony. The council will vote. They might say, 'I cannot choose you,' and if they do, I will choose anyway." Eli blinked. "Won't that start something?" Varelia smiled. "Let it start." Then she leaned in, close to his ear. "If I win, I want you to come with me, not as a prize, as a partner." Eli's heart beat faster. This was not a joke anymore. This was real. But as always, peace didn't last long. That night, as the lights dimmed over Aurelian 3, a coded message came into the human camp. It was intercepted by the security team. It said, "Remove the human boy before the ceremony. One accident is enough to erase this problem." Someone wanted Eli gone. The night before the final ceremony was too quiet. The lights of Aurelian 3 shimmered as always. The stars blinked softly in the sky. The floating gardens moved gently on invisible air currents. But Eli Mercer couldn't sleep. Not because of nerves. Not because of the princess. Because of the message. "Remove the human boy before the ceremony. One accident is enough to erase this problem." It wasn't just a threat, it was a warning. Someone wanted him dead, that someone was powerful. Enough to send orders through secure channels, he told Sergeant Lyra, and the camp security tripled around his tent. Drones hovered above. Motion scanners were placed. Guards stood nearby with energy rifles. But Eli knew one thing from all his survival training. If someone really wants you gone, walls won't stop them. At midnight, the wind changed. Eli felt it before he heard anything. A sharp chill passed through the camp like a whisper. Then came a low static buzz. A nearby drone blinked. Sparktan fell to the ground. "Sensor down," one guard shouted. Before they could react, a shadow dropped from the top of a light tower, silent and fast. The first guard was knocked out before he even turned. "Intruder," someone screamed. Eli jumped from his bed, grabbing a small pulse blaster. It wasn't strong, but it could stun if aimed well. He ran out of the tent just in time to see two more figures wearing cloaking suits moving through the bushes. One aimed a knife-like device at him. Eli ducked, rolled and fired blindly. Pulse hit the attacker's leg. They fell with a grunt. The second moved faster, almost a blur. Eli ran toward the gardens, away from the camp, shouting, "Lure them into open space." Sergeant Lyra's voice crackled in his ear. "We're tracking you. Keep moving." "We've called Zarinth guards." Eli leaped over a low wall, rolled behind a glowing bush, and caught his breath. But the attacker was smart. They didn't chase loudly. They moved like a hunter. Each step quiet. Each breath hidden. Eli reached into his boot and pulled out a flare grenade, a non-lethal one used for signals. He waited. Listened. Then dash movement behind him. He threw the grenade behind his back. Flash. The explosion of white light lit up the entire area. The attacker screamed and stumbled, cloak failing. Eli now saw the face. Not Zarinth. A rival species. Cold blue skin. Golden eyes. Definitely not a thief or a local criminal, eh? Hired killer. He aimed again. Fired. The blast hit the assassin's chest. They fell unconscious. But more footsteps echoed. Another one. Or something worse. But he spun around and found himself staring at a glowing figure descending from the sky. Not a killer. Princess Virelia. Her eyes were wide. She moved toward him fast. "You're hurt," she said. "I'm fine." "They're not," he replied, pointing at the fallen attackers. Zarinth royal guards arrived seconds later, surrounding them and securing the area. One of them scanned the attackers and shook their head. Elite. Contract killers. Paid by someone with high influence. Virelia looked at Eli. "They tried to kill you before the ceremony." The message was true. "Someone's really scared of me," he said, half joking. "They should be," she replied softly. The next morning, the entire games changed. Security increased tenfold. The human camp was given full protection by the Zarinth royal guards. Diplomats shouted in council meetings. Protests from other species began, claiming the trial was unfairly focused on one boy. But the High Council didn't cancel the ceremony. Instead, they announced, "Today, all species will present their strengths one last time. After that, the princess will declare her choice. The council will vote whether her claim stands." It was now official. This wasn't a game anymore. This was history. The ceremony began on the highest platform of Aurelion-3. Thousands of aliens gathered. Holographic banners waved in the sky. Giant screens showed highlights of the games. Each species walked onto the stage, one by one. Warriors bowed. Scientists showed inventions. Performers danced in zero-gravity rings. Then came the humans. Eli walked at the front, dressed in formal black and silver gear. His blaster was removed, but he wore a small badge on his chest. It simply said, "Human Earth 0017. The crowd didn't boo. They didn't cheer. They watched. Curious, nervous, unsure. Eli stood still as Princess Virelia rose above them on a glowing platform. She wore her crown now, a ring of light and crystal. Her voice was calm but powerful. "My people, my council, my galaxy. I have won the first contact games. I have shown skill, wisdom, and leadership. And as our law allows, I now speak my choice." Silence. Eli felt his heart pound. She pointed straight at him. "That human will be mine." Gasps echoed across the arena. Shock, anger, surprise, and applause from the humans. From the squid aliens he had worked with, from even a few of the council judges. But then, another voice. Deep, cold, sharp, objection. Everyone turned. It was Lord Viren Virelia's uncle, and leader of the traditionalist wing of the council. He stepped forward, robe flowing like black smoke. "This human is dangerous. He attracts chaos. He was nearly killed last night, and yet he still stands here. That proves recklessness, not worth." Virelia spoke sharply. "He survived." "That proves strength," Viren sneered. "And let the council decide." And so they did. Each member of the Zarinth High Council stood one by one. They voted. Some said no. Too risky, too wild, too human. Others said yes. Brave, unexpected. New blood. The votes came fast. 5 no, 5 yes. Then silence. One vote remained. The Grand Speaker, an old, thin creature with silver lines across his face, stood slowly. Everyone leaned forward. He looked at Virelia, then at Eli, and said one word. "Yes." The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Some screamed. But one thing was clear. The vote had passed. The claim stood. Virelia smiled. Eli just stood there, frozen. After the ceremony, Virelia met him again, this time in a quiet garden, away from cameras, away from the noise. "You're really not scared?" he asked. "I am," she replied. "But I'm also ready. And me. I'm just a soldier." "You're more than that now," she said. You've shown this galaxy something they forgot. What's that? That humans are worth watching. But deep in the shadows of a distant tower, Lord Viren watched them. He spoke into a communicator. Phase 1 failed. This isn't over? The human is now a symbol. A voice on the other side replied, then symbols must be broken. Aurelian 3 was still glowing from the day of the ceremony, but deep inside its floating towers, danger had not passed. Eli Mercer, now no longer just a young soldier, sat alone in his temporary room. The badge on his chest still read human. Earth 0017. But now, it meant something more. It meant he had survived the first contact games. It meant he had been chosen. Not as a prize, as a partner. And yet, not everyone accepted it. The assassination attempt. The council's bitter split. The cold eyes of Lord Viren, none of that had gone away. Peace had been voted. But hatred doesn't follow rules. That evening, Princess Viralia arrived in a quiet hovercar. She wore no crown this time, no armor, just a simple silver cloak. She found Eli by the garden pond, tossing small light stones into the water. You're still awake, she said softly. I don't sleep much anymore, he replied. Not since people started pointing knives at me? Virilia sat beside him. I understand. He looked at her. Do you? Your royalty? Protected? Trained? She smiled faintly. I'm royalty. Not invincible. They sat in silence. For a moment then she asked, do you regret it? Being here? No, being chosen? Eli thought for a while, then shook his head. I don't regret it. But I didn't expect it either. I came to see the stars. Not to be dragged into royal decisions or wars and shadows. She touched his hand gently. I didn't expect you either. I saw hundreds of warriors. Scientists, heirs to powerful houses. All perfect on paper? Then why me? You weren't perfect. You were real. Just as their hands met, a loud explosion rocked the sky. Boom. Lights went out in the sky towers. Sirens screamed. Drones buzzed in panic. Eli stood quickly. Wasn't a glitch, no? Virilia said, her eyes narrowing. That was sabotage. Within minutes, emergency lights turned red. Messages came through their communicators. Alert. Internal power grid under attack. Alert. Royal Council Tower has been breached. Alert. Unauthorized ship preparing for launch from Docking Bay 7. Eli looked at Virilia. She nodded once. They didn't wait. The guards escorted them through the sky bridge that led to the council tower. Now smoking and burning from inside, fires had been set, systems disabled, security bots reprogrammed, a full coup attempt. Where's the Grand Speaker? Virilia demanded. Missing, one guard replied. And the vote records, wiped from the central core. Eli cursed. They're trying to erase the decision. Virilia's jaw clenched. An escape with power. They ran through the corridors, joined by Zarenth guards, human marines, and even some squid-like allies from the games. It was chaos. In the control room, they found 2 council members tied. Up. He took the speaker hostage, one said. He's heading to the launch bay, Virilia turned to Eli. This ends tonight. The launch bay was cold, silent, and dangerous. A single black starship stood ready to fly, sleek, sharp, and deadly. Guards loyal to Viren opened fire the moment they saw them. Eli rolled behind cover. Virilia moved like lightning, firing precise stun blasts. The squid allies used smoke pods. The humans advanced. Eli spotted the speaker tied, conscious being carried up the ramp by Viren's men. I'm going for him. Eli shouted. Virilia covered him. Be fast! Astea dashed forward, dodging blasts. He climbed the ramp just as the ship started to power up inside. Viren turned. He wasn't surprised to see Eli. Human, he said coldly. Always in the wrong place. Eli aimed his blaster. Put the speaker down. Viren pulled out a glowing blade. You're not a warrior. You're a child who got lucky. Eli didn't flinch. No, I'm human. That means I survive. They fought. The alien blade slashed close. Eli blocked with a nearby metal rod. Sparks flew. He wasn't stronger. He wasn't faster, but he was determined. Viren stabbed forward. Eli ducked, then rolled and fired point blank into the older alien's chest. The pulse hit hard. Viren screamed and collapsed. The speaker groaned, waking slowly. Eli helped him up. "You okay?" The speaker nodded. "You truly are the future." Virelia and the guards arrived seconds later. Viren was arrested. His ship was locked. The data core was recovered. The council, now awake and safe, watched the full footage. The proof was there. Eli had saved the speaker again. The next day, a new vote was held. But this time it wasn't about Virelia's claim. It was about something even bigger. Do we accept Earth into the Galactic Alliance? This time, no one said no. Humanity was officially welcomed, and Eli Mercer became the face of that moment. Later, in the garden where it had all begun, Eli and Virelia stood alone. The stars were brighter tonight. She looked at him, wearing a new robe knot as princess. "But as a free person, I will not take the crown," she said. "I will help build the alliance instead." "You're walking away from the throne." "I'm walking toward something better," she said, looking at him. He smiled. "So what now? We fly around and fix the galaxy together?" "Something like that," she said. He offered his hand. She took it. From that day forward, their story was told across hundreds of planets. The soldier who became a symbol, the princess who chose freedom over tradition, and the galaxy that was forever changed because of a single, quiet moment. When one girl pointed and said, "That human will be mine,"